Welcome to episode 2 of Midwest Ghost Town as we go across Iowa, across the Mississippi River, up into the state of Wisconsin, where we will be exploring a ghost town of Sinnipee, Wisconsin. Come with us now as we go to Centipe and explore the birthplace of the Transcontinental Railroad. This is when a new character enters into the scene, John Plumbe, who was an entrepreneur, a photographer. He was also an engineer and a surveyor. He was brought in to survey the land with the investment group. So 23 investors brought in and bought the land from Peyton Vaughn for approximately $12,000. Now $12,000 back then would be a lot of money in today's terms. And the deal was that Peyton would take half that amount of money and build a hotel at that site for the idea of a railroad. So John Plumbe wanted to bring a railroad and connect it from Milwaukee to Sinnipee. Then of course his big dream was to cause that railroad to go over the river and connect with a much bigger picture, the Transcontinental Railroad. Really everything was just kind of coming up to speed. It was really becoming a boom town. Sinnipee started to grow. A blacksmith came, a tinsmith came, there was a shoe shop that came as well, a church went up, and many different residents started to boom in Sinnipee. And then the Mississippi flooded. But it really wasn't the flood that caused the problem. It was really the pools of the Mississippi after it that brought the mosquitoes that brought malaria. So John Plumbe goes and he goes back to the East Coast and he starts to build a mini franchise, if you will, of different photo shops. And he really started to become this very well-known, popular photographer as he started to really start taking pictures of portraits and so forth. In fact, he was so popular that he was known historically as the photographer that took some of the first pictures of both the White House and the Capitol. John Plumbe ended up taking his life tragically. He's still buried in Dubuque to this day, and I had an opportunity to go to Linwood Cemetery, look around and find his gravestone, as well as checking out the town of Sinnipee. We're here at the old site of Sinnipee Ghost Town. If we do not survive this trip and you find this camera, Dan Klein, Caleb Klein, we made it this far at least, right?
Yeah.
All in all, Sinnipee's story really is a story of great promise and great dreams, as characters such as John Plumbe and characters such as Peyton Vaughn came together and built this town around the lead mining. They had ideas of the Transcontinental Railroad, and it just makes you think as you're walking around the grounds that here is the place. This is where these big ideas came together, and only just to diminish overnight. Just makes you think and kind of puts things in perspective as we think about the history of our places, but we think about the history of ghost towns, what they represent. But this is Centipe. Well, we're at the site of Centipe Ghost Town, and this is really the place where Peyton Vaughn kind of started his ferry across the Mississippi River. Right now you can tell there's really nothing left but woods and river. But up top is a cemetery. It's the last remaining part of this ghost town. Well, some here along the bluff would be the Stone Hotel, which is what Peyton Vaughn really started. He was given $12,000 by investors to start. He was given $12,000 by investors to allow them to go ahead and start Port Centipe, and then $6,000 of that $12,000 he was asked to start a hotel, which he did.
And the hotel burned down in the 1900s, early 1900s, about 1905, and cannot find the ruins. They really used a lot of that in the 30s when they built Lock and Dam 11.
You know, even though I walked the grounds of Sinnipee and there wasn't much there wasn't much left, it didn't change the perspective of the history that really took place along those grounds, along the Centipe Creek that was there, along the bluffs where the cemetery sat, with the last remains of the residents of Sinnipee. The history still remains, the story still remains, and it's still rich, and it's still one that really kind of adds a flavor that here, once upon a time, the idea, the big dreams, everything that kind of came together for the Transcontinental Railroad, and the grandfather of the idea and the perception of the railroad happened in this place.